Hello, welcome, Dr. Marta. I'm so happy to have you here today to
Hello.
talk on our podcast. If you can just let everyone know a little bit about yourself and your background and what's important today to speak about.
Yeah. So I'm Dr. Marta. I'm clearly Italian. My accent doesn't betray me. And I live in Dubai for 4 years and I work in Modern Vet JVC branch pretty much since the beginning. I can call that place home. I genuinely love what I do. I love surgery, but I love as well internal medicine. Another thing that is very, very close to my heart is to help as much as possible stray population here in Dubai.
I think you're quite well renowned in the stray cat community. Sorry? You're well renowned in the stray cat community in Dubai.
Well, I do my best. I rescue them myself, and I believe that one animal less in the street is one animal more that can have a good life. I deeply believe in that.
Dubai summer heat. How to survive the heat in Dubai.
Wow. As Dubai heat is almost unbearable for us, we have to think that is exactly the same for our pets. Actually, for them is even worse because we wear shoes and our body is not so close to the ground as the body of the pets is. From the other side, we might have more access to water while their safety is entirely on our hands. We cannot forget that.
I know. And just to give people a perspective of how hot it gets in Dubai, it's 40, 50 degrees sometimes.
Well, we easily reach 45 degrees. What doesn't play on our favor is the high level of humidity.
Yeah, now we're coming into September.
That's quite dangerous because obviously the perception we have on the temperature is much higher. So even if it's not that hot with high percentage of humidity, what we feel is much warmer.
Yeah. It kind of tricks people into thinking they're safer. It's like
we are
only
not.
35. No.
No, we are not. And it's dangerous for us, but it's even more dangerous for our animals.
So can you explain a little bit if pets here are more prone to kind of heat-related injuries than in other climates, or what kind of injuries, like we kind of discussed already, the heat stroke, but what more?
Definitely. I mean, there are different level of overheating because whenever the body is exposed to a higher temperature than normal, and that can happen for a short period of time or longer period of time, we can end up with different consequences. Let's assume that the borderline temperature for a dog or a cat is 39.5. We can consider an animal overheated when it reaches 41. Above 41, we tend to consider it as a heat stroke. Another big problem that we have are the burn paw pad due to walking on too hot surfaces. But yeah, definitely this is and dehydration. Dehydration is the other thing that can often happen in the moment in which there is no free access to a source of fresh water.
And can you give us like the first few signs people could notice if they're walking their pet? What are the signs of heat stroke?
Definitely. So the first signs are the same regardless we're talking about overheating or heat stroke. Because with the overeating, that is the first phase, we have panting, which is the most common thing that we can observe sometimes even in our indoor animals. So let's not forget about them. So it's not only a matter of animals that walk outside. Panting, increased breathing effort. Remember that when animals are breathing on open mouth with the tongue out is a good way for them to dissipate heat. They don't sweat the way we do. Increased heart rate. That's another very, very common.
How would pet owners be able to kind of...
most of the time it's enough to put a hand on the chest and you can feel the heart rate spiking up. Not always so common. And the other thing that we can definitely observe is the increased redness of the gums because in order to dissipate this heat, there is peripheral vasodilation, which means that we have a major blood flow through the extremities and we can see the gums pretty red.
Okay, so they'll become more red. Okay.
Yeah, these are definitely the first signs that can occur in the moment in which there is overheating. We have to remember that, unfortunately, the heat stroke, which is the next step, can end up in way major and more severe sign and potentially lead to death.
And what kind of signs would we be looking at there?
Okay, we can have vomit, diarrhea, we can have lethargy, weakness, reluctance to movement, till the stage in which the animal is collapsing, seizuring, and that can definitely lead to death. So it's something that we absolutely cannot underestimate.
Yeah. And if people suspect their pet to have heat stroke, what are the steps to do? Come straight to the vet, start to cool them down first, or what can they do before they try to get to the vet?
Ideally, the two things together because definitely it's important to start to cool down the animal as quick as possible, not as fast as possible.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense. I'll explain it. But definitely you need to reach the vet ASAP.
Okay.
When I say to start to cool down the animal as quick as possible, it means to be aggressive on the treatment of the overheating. That doesn't mean that we have to cool down the temperature too fast. Reason why, for example, the use of ice is quite controversial, because somebody says to use, somebody says not to use. I still prefer to use cold water soaked towels, to use maybe alcohol on the extremities, on the paws, that helps to dissipate heat. I wouldn't use direct ice in contact with the body, just not to create a further shock, because we have to drop down the temperature, but that cannot happen too fast. That ice would do.
And the other thing, I think, especially in Dubai, a question a lot of people have is like, okay, my pet's overheating, they've been outside. Do I get straight into the hot car and try to just get to the vet as quickly as possible? Or do I give 5 minutes, let the car cool down?
That is essential. That is absolutely essential, because, I mean, in the moment in which they are panting and breathing on open mouth, increased heart rate, we have to keep them in a cool environment. So to put them in a hot car is absolutely not recommended. So it's important to run fast to the vet, but we have still to transport an animal in safety and not to expose him to an even hotter environment, which could potentially be the car. So AC can definitely help. There are cooling vests that people can definitely buy, even online. They can easily be foundable. Still, I believe that we should not reach that point.
That was my other question. So people have this idea that if we get the cooling vests, boots to protect the paws, would you recommend these, or do you think it's giving the people like a false idea, now I can go walk for 20, 30 minutes because I have a cooling vest on, where it's like, it's not necessarily giving you more time, but it can help a little bit? Or what's your opinion on these?
I personally would not suggest that.
Okay.
I would always suggest to avoid the hottest hours of the day, to walk animals for a short period of time, not as much as we do in winter, for example, early morning, late evening, after sundowning. I wouldn't consider the vest or frozen treats or ice in the water bowl as alternatives in order to keep the normal routine. Routine for animals in summer months has to be changed.
Right.
Cannot be kept the same. So those are good tricks that we can use to keep our animals more comfortable in the hot temperature, but cannot be a solution to avoid the heat stroke, because that is not going to happen.
Yeah, okay. I agree. And with the boots, I feel like a lot of people forget that the dogs are like sweating through their paws, and then they go ahead and put these boots on and think, now I can walk them for like 20 minutes. And it's like, maybe for a quick little walk to go pee, or the boot will help them getting burnt, but it's like, it's not going to help you walk him for 20, 30 minutes necessarily.
Yeah. So the boots normally make people think that they are allowed to walk for longer period of time, which is absolutely wrong, because this is what exactly we were saying. Excessive activity can definitely play a major role in overeating and heat stroke. So in summer months, we have to walk them for a short period of time in the cooler hour of the day, in the coolest hour of the day. The use of boots can be quite controversial because definitely can save the paw. But I'm still of the idea that if the ground is too hot for the paws, it's not the right moment to walk your dog. That's why I usually suggest people to step on their bare feet on the ground, to bear all their weight on one foot only, so not just to touch the ground, but exactly, but generally to put all their weight, all their body weight on one foot only. If they can hold that for a few seconds, it means that the ground is safe for the dog to walk on. While in the moment in which it's too hot for people, it's definitely too hot for the dogs. Then if it is an emergency, the dog has to go out 5 minutes, that's where the boot can help, but it's not something I would consider as an alternative, because we have to remember that we cannot expose their body to high temperature in the wrong moment.
And it's crazy how often I still see people walking their pets midday, and you see the dog like struggling, trying to get around.
Absolutely. There should be a general rule. Honestly, owners should be aware of what is not comfortable for the dogs. That's why I always try to explain and to make the comparison. The same way the animal is reacting to exposure to heat in the mid-afternoon in full summer, same would be for us. We would not go for a run.
To it somehow.
I mean, I wouldn't be happy to go for a run at 2:00 in the afternoon in July or August
with no shoes on
bare feet. Exactly. So I usually push people to think what they would do if they were in that condition. And if they would not be happy to go for a walk,
then
either the dog would.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
And maybe you can give us, on the top of your head, 3 breeds that you think are more prone to heat-related issues.
Oh, wow. That other thing that I was mentioning before is that is not necessarily always to be exposed for a long period of time. Sometimes even a short period of time of exposure to high temperature can be literally fatal. We have to remember that brachycephalic breeds are the most predisposed because they are those with already some breathing issues. So this flat face doesn't help. We have to remember that very young animals, very old animals, overweight animals, but that's exactly the same for people. I mean, let's be realistic. And also animals with underlying respiratory cardiac condition are definitely more on risk to face overheating and potentially heat stroke.
Okay. And then another question would be, some people have the concept, if I shave my dog's hair for the summer, will this help them stay cool?
That's another very, very controversial topic because above all here in Dubai, we see quite a lot of animals totally shaved. I usually suggest to keep pets trimmed, so to remove the extra fur that can potentially trap the heat. But I would never suggest to shave completely for two main reasons. The coat itself is isolating from the cold, but also from the heat. And the second thing is that shaving too short, you're exposing the skin to potential sunburning.
People forget that. And I've seen recently a dog with really bad sunburn, actually, up in the mountains hiking, even in the winter, actually, but
absolutely.
The sunburn was
and the funny thing is that some animals generally like to lie down on the sun. So to have a sun on the direct skin is not safe, above all for non-pigmented skin.
Okay. So then the other thing we really have to get into that I know is a topic very close to your heart would be pet ownership, summer abandonment issues, and responsible ownership, let's say.
Absolutely. That's a very, very delicate topic in which I'm normally very, very straightforward to people because I genuinely care of that. And every summer we face the same problems. Luckily, more and more people are getting very, very responsible about their pets. They would never consider leaving them behind or abandoning them as an option, but still happens.
Still happens often.
Yeah. Apart from leaving them behind, I have a Tome cat that was left in an empty flat for more than 2 months and ended up with me. But I'm talking about even the bunch of kittens that have been abandoned in front of our clinics in the last couple of months. You perfectly know. Some from
every week or so, there's just a box of kittens left outside of the clinic.
From newborn kitten who need bottle feeding to already 10, 12 weeks old kittens. Point is that these are animals that would never ever survive by themselves outside. Above all, kittens that have been separated from the mother too early, we didn't have the proper breastfeeding. We are trying our best, but we already know that their survival rate might not be great. So that's something that shouldn't happen. I always suggest people to get their strays, those that they know, those that they normally feed, to get them neutered, ideally vaccinated, just to control the population, because in the moment in which we don't have a major stray population, we are able to provide them shelter, shade, fresh water, and an acceptable care, while in the moment in which we have an area overpopulated, then becomes very, very difficult to manage them. And the TNR, the neutering, is the only way to control this.
Yeah. If people want to help strays during the summer, what advice could you give them as well then?
That's a little bit of a delicate topic as well, like all the others, as is not allowed to feed strays here in Dubai. But I believe that at least fresh water should be left outside, maybe on your private yard, so it's not in the street where potentially could bother someone. Just to give water available, fresh water available, potentially to place a block of ice in it. So it's going to take longer to melt and keep cool for at least a few hours. Provide them some shelter or some shade. In the ideal picture, to give the strays an indoor area, a room with AC for the hottest hours of the day would be the best. I know that is not always possible,
but at least some kind of sheltered area.
Absolutely, that would make their life so much safer.
Yeah, and it's very heartbreaking. We see a lot of house cats, proper house cats that people have just left, for the summer, and they kind of have the feeling like it's a cat. He'll be all right out. Like, have you seen this? These like fluffy little cats you just see outside.
Yeah, we have to remember that our stray cats are unfortunately, used to live in harsh conditions. While in the moment in which a house cat, above all a long-haired cat, even for the topic we were talking about before of the fur, are left outside, their possibility of survival is pretty low.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. And we find them sometimes panting in corners of the road, which is very sad because these animals would suffer enormously.
Yeah. So what message do you have for pet owners who might be considering leaving their pet behind?
That should not even be an option. That is the first thing I would definitely say in a very, very direct way.
Especially if you live in Dubai, you know it's a transient place. You need to make preparations.
Not necessarily,
but people, they come and they want to stay for a few years. You should be aware, like, or you need to
definitely
consider the options of how to relocate your
Absolutely.
pet. Or if you want to leave for the summer, there's options to do that.
From summer holiday to a full relocation, things have to be managed way ahead. Okay, so there are a lot of options. First of all, to have a pet, I call it a 15 years commitment, because that is the average lifespan of a dog or a cat. Who is not ready for that should not have a pet, but not said in a nasty way or in a mean way, absolutely. Actually, those would be most probably the perfect people to foster. Because we see our rescue groups here. Exactly. Our rescue groups here are struggling to find foster homes until the animals are ready to travel or until their animals find a forever home. So who is not ready for a long-term commitment could definitely foster for a few months, for a few weeks, according to their capability. That would be such a great help. That would be would make so much difference, as much as an adoption. While when it comes to relocation, for a lot of people, is seen still as a big obstacle. It's actually not. Definitely there is quite a lot of money involved because to relocate with a pet is not exactly cheap. But nowadays there are so many different options. There are very, very valid relocation companies which can help us on the process of relocating safely with our animals without major dramas. Still, for those that travel in summer and they want to leave their pet from a few days to maybe a couple of months, there are a lot of different options. I can't generally say which one is best than the other. We can go through them now.
Yeah.
I still believe that it's very, very important to find what's the best for your pet.
Yeah,
what
there's
your
not
pet
really a
is
one
more
size fits
comfortable
all.
with.
Yeah.
Because some people are very happy to leave them at boarding and daycare and dog hotel, pet hotel. And most dogs and cats are generally happy there. Remember that also there is a big difference between dogs and cats. Cats tend to like their own environment.
Like,
home is their safe
leave
place.
me alone. Let me,
Exactly. While dogs might be a little bit more sociable animals, so to be happy in company. But definitely boarding facilities are one of the options. We have the option of the pet sitting. Some pet sitter come to your place to take care of your animals. Some other pet sitting generally take care of your animals at their place. Sometimes we use the help of friends that I generally believe can be useful for a few days. But we have to remember that friends might not have the same commitment or the same understanding of our pet that we do or professional have. Okay, so definitely there are a lot of options. My advice is always to find where your animal is more comfortable, whether it is with a pet sitter, in a boarding, or with a friend, or just stay in a home with a caretaker, for example. Just they are our priority.
There's options. Yeah.
Our priority is their well-being.
Okay. And if you could give our listeners 3 simple tips then, keeping your pets safe and happy and healthy for the summer, to sum it up.
Okay, so avoid walking in the hottest hours of the day. Number 1. Oh, there are a lot. I have to choose.
Just 3.
Oh, wow. Always a source of fresh water available and shade. Put 2 in 1, I think is valid anyway. And keep an eye on their clinical signs. So whatever can show us that they are not comfortable in the heat.
Yeah. Okay, and then another question. One myth you would really like to dispel about pets in the summer? You kind of spoke about it a little bit already, but is there another myth you could say that you want to break down? Like people always ask you, like, can I do this for my pet? Or why does my pet do this during the summer?
One of the most common questions I receive is about the shaving, the clipping the fur. As I said before, trimming or removing the extra fur that can potentially trap the heat can be a solution. Still, that doesn't mean that the dog is then allowed to be outside in the hottest hours or on direct sun. Not to shave them too short because the skin can be affected, and still the isolation from the heat is not working anymore. The funny thing that I get questioned about is about all these animals that genuinely like to lie down in the sun.
Yeah, mine likes the sun. Yeah.
Which sounds quite silly because we know we are on 45 degrees. Why do you do that? Animals like us, they generally like to lie in the sun and to feel the warmth on their body. Point is that they are not really aware of the risk of overheating. So that's on our responsibility to control
A lot
that.
of people are like, they'll come in when they're hot. And I'm like, they actually might not. Like, you would hope they do, and a lot of them do. But some of them are like, they don't kind of realize that they've overheated to the point where they then become quite lethargic, and you cannot always trust that they will come in when they're hot.
I'm not sure it's a risk I would take.
Yeah.
From the other side, a couple of minutes, I don't think would be of any danger. But still, we have to be very, very, very careful because summertime can cause overheating and heat stroke in very, very short time. Above all, for those dogs with the more pigmented skin, a darker fur. And despite they like it, I would not let my animals out or in direct sun during summer months. Other important thing is to keep AC at home because we have to remember, as I mentioned before, that even our indoor animals can be exposed to the stress of the heat because even the house gets warmer.
Yeah.
So to keep an AC constantly on, not on crazy low temperatures, is not needed 18 degrees, okay? We don't need to freeze them, but to keep them comfortable, always to keep water available and to avoid to leave them in rooms where there is direct sun.
Yeah.
Because that can overheat them regardless, even if they are on the AC.
Thank you so much. This has been so helpful. For people looking to know where they can get more resources from, or if they have more questions, can you help to advise them where to look?
Okay. First of all, I understand that in a regime of emergency, the first thing we check is internet. Dr. Google, which is not always so helpful. I mean, no, it's not true. We have to be realistic. A lot of the information provided are absolutely valid, but sometimes they are not complete or not consistently correct.
Yeah, it's not always verified, yeah.
So I still believe that the opinion of a professional is always better, but I also understand that in the moment of panic, because the dog is overeated or you feel that there is something wrong, that's the first thing you check. So, yes, internet can help. We have to remember that might not always give us the perfect, correct information. To have short, intense courses done with your vet could be useful. Is something that we did in the past, and I believe is absolutely important to give to pet owners the basics, the basic knowledge to know how to act in the moment of an emergency in front of a heat stroke or whatever.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.